Okay, you've built yourself a house. It's got a great exterior, it's got a fantastic interior, and it has a basement where you do questionable things, but that's none of my business. And then you walk out the front door and now listen up. If you'll continue building like this, I'm gonna seize your builder's license, not even kidding. So today, we're gonna discuss a few ways you can improve the terrain around your builds. And we're gonna do that by transforming the landscape around this house. Rocks and boulders are a great way to add depth and character to your terrain. I usually prefer to make them with the mossy and regular cobblestone variants, but you can make them with any block you want. Just dot a few of these around and your landscape already has a few extra points for depth. Here's how this works. You see this chunk of land over here? This is flat, like your girlfriend. You add a couple of rocks in there and make some block variations in the ground. Add a few blades of grass here and there. Put some foliage if you want to. And as I said, instantly it looks more interesting. If not anything else, you can just put a slab down with a little grass around it, and you have yourself a few extra pixels worth of depth. Look at this house. It has no roads connected to it. It is lost. It doesn't know what to do, just like high schoolers. So what we do is, we be generous and attach parts to it. Usually when I'm making parts, I start thinking about the strong viewing angles of the build. Say for example, this spot right here is a great viewing spot for the build. The build looks amazing from this spot. So ideally what I'd want to do is have a path go over this spot. So when the viewer's walking on ground level, they get to see the build from its best angles. There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with your paths. And there are so many possible block paths available. But here I've rather gone for a simpler design using fences and stone slabs and some shrubbery around to frame the path a little. You can also add some blades of grass here and there to add a little extra interest to it. Or perhaps even flowers if that's the look that you're going for. A good path can make the walking experience that much more enjoyable, so it's definitely worth it. I think we all know by now that trees add a great amount of character to your builds. Mainly the custom ones. Custom trees are just amazing. And there's really no one way of making them. They come in all shapes and sizes. Like this one over here is a small one, but it has these nice details with this grass and tall grass blocks. And they're sitting on grass blocks. And I think they blend in really nicely with the oak leaves over here. This one over here is a medium-sized tree, and it's my favorite one. The shape of it is just perfect. This tree over here is very distinct in shape, but it's also the tallest one around here. I made it tall because I wanted it to serve as a backdrop to the build, and it does its job perfectly. Water features are a great way to spice things up even more. There are all sorts of water features that you can make. Fountains, ponds, rivers, or even lakes if you're building on a bigger scale. Here, I've built a very simple and small pond, and using nothing but a very simple block palette. There's some corals and flowers in there to add some color to it, but other than that, there's really nothing special. Just the usual seagrass and kelp. And also, if you're on Java Edition, you can place sea pickles on glass panes. And that looks really cool, so definitely try that out. Also, if you're making ponds, try to make them at least 3 blocks deep, otherwise they just look like puddles. You can also make some block variations with clay and gravel inside water, and I think that looks really nice. Adding some sea pickles and mossy slabs can help with the details too. Next up on the list, we have fields. Flower fields, crop fields, literally just any kinds of fields can be a great addition to your landscape. And again, there are a ton of different ways you can make them. And all sorts of different patterns you can make with the crops themselves to make the fields look more aesthetic. These ones I have outlined with oak leaves, and there are some ferns in there to add some extra details. I also divided them with these muddy parts over here, and I think it's a cool look. If you want, you can also add some extra bits of detail by dotting a few blades of grass here and there. In this scene, I've used the fields as a part of the background. That's why they're closest to the horizon line. And that's why they're the furthest away. I also took the creative liberty to make these 2 trees over here, and they're kind of nice. And just take a look at how much different this place looks now. We got these beautiful parts, this amazing pond, and these very, very stunning custom trees. And of course the fields. You walk out the door and there's just so much for your eyes to explore. And how just a few extra bits of details have completely changed how this build looks. Now I admit that it looks a bit messy because we crammed a lot of details in there for demonstration purposes. And there's really no need to add every single one of these into your builds. Now, we have one last thing to do. And that is to slap some shaders in there, set the time to sunset, and enjoy the view.